What's up, everybody? It's Alan Garcia. This is Local Look. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. If you are, for those of you that are, thank you guys for also following my page. It used to be Alan Rock Southeast LA, but now I've changed the name to Local Look SELA, which is Sela Southeast LA. I'm trying to get out there and cover all kinds of events and council meetings from Southgate and the city of Cudahy, and also go to art events. I just went to an amazing event from Proyecto Vecindad, and it was a open mic for March Women's Month, and man, it was amazing. I'm gonna do a segment on that. So this is actually a really good interview with Gil Hurtado. So I'm gonna let you guys listen in on this, and thank you guys. So now, let's get to my guest, who is Gil Hurtado. He's done a lot of great things around the community. He has been a council member for several years and just recently ran for city clerk. Gil, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty okay. My throat is kind of sore there, so I hope it's coming out okay.
Yeah, I know you just got over kind of, fighting an illness not so long ago, which is why we kind of postponed this interview. But, we're here now. And I guess let's start off with the basic for those people who, the listeners who don't know who you are and, how long you've been doing what you do. How long have you been involved in Southgate politics and the community in general?
Well, I've been involved with the community for many, many years. I've been the president of the Southgate Junior Athletic Association for about 25 years now. I've been with them maybe for about 27 or so. It's a youth program that provides youth sports for children 5 through 18 years old. And, we've been doing a pretty good job. We keep the costs down so people can afford it. And I got involved with politics actually because of that. What happened is that many years ago, many of us identified some shenanigans going on with our local government. And we all kind of got together and decided, we can't put up with this anymore. And we did everything that we could in order to clear up what was, to us, what appeared to be corruption. And it turned out we were right because the gentleman that was leading the whole thing ended up doing 10 years of federal prison because of his activities here in Southgate.
Okay, so you were part of the movement to clear up that corruption, and now we fast forward, and you've been doing good work in the city council position. What has what was it in you that said you wanted to now shift gears and run for city clerk?
Yeah, so it was more of a necessity. I felt an obligation to the city, and the reason is that, look, for many years I was a supporter of our current city clerk, which is Carmen Avalos. And many of us just respected and saw her as a person who took a position of taking on our corrupt government. And so we got her elected many years ago. But over the last few years, I was getting a lot of complaints from residents that had to do with her, just not being regular in attendance, just not being in her office. And I did everything I could to address it with her. And at first, you have to remember that being a council member, you're basically a part-timer. So I worked as a supervisor for the U.S. Postal Service out in the city of Downey. And so most of my day was spent out there. And so when I would come out here to City Hall, it was always after, my shift ended over at the post office.
Right.
And so whenever I spoke to Carmen and I told her, hey, listen, I'm having residents that are complaining about your not being in your office. And she convinced me that, it was a mistake, that she was always there. And I had no reason to doubt her. I trusted her. She seemed like a very fine person. Raising her family, taking care of her mom. And, I saw her, very much, almost like a good representative for us. And I didn't see any reason to doubt her.
Okay.
But when I retired in December of 2013 from the U.S. Postal Service, pardon me, those meetings that I would have after my shift ended at the post office. Well, now I could have those meetings during the day. And from 2014 on, whenever I met with residents or I met with developers or with staff, it would be during the day. And I started noticing, wait a minute, why isn't she here?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't she here? And, I had a habit of whenever I would run into any one of our employees, it didn't matter what employee it was, it could have been the city manager or one of our hourly employees, out of respect and appreciation for the work that they do in the city of Southgate, I made an effort to greet them, pat them on the back, and say thank you. Well, I would do that even at the city clerk's office, but I would notice that she was never there.
Mm-hmm.
So I started talking to her and saying, listen, now that I'm retired, I'm able to spend a lot of time here at City Hall, and I noticed that you're not here. Well, right away she went into what I could describe as a defensive posture and playing a victim. Mm-hmm. She would say things like, what, are you spying on me? No, I'm not spying on you. I'm just asking you a question because those things that people complain to me about, I'm now starting to see that, wait a minute, maybe there was some truth to it. Mm-hmm. And there were some other things that came about. Back in the day when the economy of the country was going belly up, mm-hmm. And that was actually not just the country, it was a global economic meltdown. Mm-hmm. I found that our employees did something remarkable, fantastic to make our jobs easier as council members. They offered to take a pay cut. Mm-hmm. For the purposes of us being able to balance the budget. The caveat was that we will not do any layoffs. And so, I saw that as, this is why I love our employees. They stepped up to the plate. They offered a solution. They offered to come and help. And so every employee in the city took a pay cut. And when, time passed, we balanced the budget. One of the union representatives came up to me and said, hey, listen, we just don't think it's fair that every one of us took a pay cut except for the city clerk. And I said, no, of course she took a pay cut. Everybody took a pay cut. Well, no, I don't think so. So I started looking into it, and I found that there was truth to that. She did not take that pay cut. And I approached her, in a very friendly manner. We were on good speaking terms. And I said, hey, listen, so I just found out that you did not take a pay cut. And she made a couple of comments that kind of sort of rubbed me the wrong way. Number one, she said, well, that's because I'm not an employee. I'm an elected official. And I said, well, of course, we know that. But that's why you should do it. You should be leading the charge. Mm-hmm. She said, well, but, you guys messed up the budget. Why should I pay the price for it? I said, no, we didn't mess up the budget. We are having a difficult time with the rest of the country. So I didn't mess up anything. Mm-hmm. And I said, but look, so I just wanted to find out why you hadn't. And she said, look, I don't answer to you. And she got up and left, which was a very typical response. When she didn't like the conversation, she just up and left. Yeah. Well, sometime before our beloved Henry Gonzalez, who done many wonderful things here in the city of Southgate, retired, he put a couple of items on the agenda that also kind of sort of left me with some questions. What are we doing here? Why are we doing this? One of the things that he placed on the agenda was to give our city clerk a $300 a month boost. And that $300 a month boost was in her car allowance. Every elected official gets $150 a month. Our staff, our directors, our chief of police, our park director, our director of public works, director of finance, they all get $450. Okay. So that was the explanation, that we give her the same salary or the same car allowance that our directors get. And, I remember thinking, I can't believe I'm going to do this because, how do I answer this? How do I answer our employees? How do I explain this to them? Well, when the council meeting started and I saw nobody objecting to it, I just did not want to, we have a very good council. We don't always agree on everything, but I felt that I didn't want to stir anything up, and nobody twisted my arm, so I went along with it. So we gave her a $450 car allowance. Well, it still bothered me, so much so that, I went up to her one day just before a council meeting and said, look, I got a question for you. Can you explain to me why we gave you that $300 a month boost? And she says, oh, because I'm a director and all the directors. I said, no, stop right there. No, my question to you has to do with, every employee took a pay cut and you didn't. They have not gotten an increase since that pay cut. You didn't take the pay cut, and here we're giving you $300 a month more. Her response was, but, I'm a director. And I said, no, again, I'm just saying, why? Look, I voted for it, but I feel uncomfortable with it. She says, well, I just think that all the employees should be treated equally. And then she threw that sexist remark, right? Then you must be, you're not into this equal pay movement for females. I said, wait a minute, stop right there. Are you or are you not an employee? Because my recollection is you told me you're not an employee. That's why you didn't take the pay cut. But now you're an employee. She says, I don't need to talk to you. And once again, she got up and left. Because in reality, the city clerk does not answer to anybody.
Right.
She answers to the voters, and if the voters keep on electing her, then she's the city clerk, and she answers to them and them only. Well, if you look at the history, she won 16 years ago. 12 years ago, she won again, but she was unopposed. 8 years ago, once again she won, unopposed. 4 years ago, she won, and she was unopposed. So now you're looking at a city clerk who has an attendance issue, is not cooperative with the budget, is looking out for her interest, and I guess that's okay. I'm not going to fault her for that. But when you look at our employees had not taken an increase up until that point, and they have to be at work, it just doesn't seem fair. And so what happened is that I had that in the back of my mind. In 2014, I had made a decision that if nobody ran against her, I was going to run. The caveat was as long if nobody else ran. But if somebody else had run, I would have taken a good look.
Them run.
I would have let them run and maybe even endorsed and supported them, run on a slate with them. Because I love what I do as a council member. But I could no longer turn the other way. And by the way, I've had conversations with other elected officials. I spoke with Belen Bernal, who's there supporting Carmen, and she, in the conversation, let it slip out that she also knows that the reason that Carmen's not there is because she knows that Carmen's teaching at a charter school during the day. Our treasurer, Greg Martinez, also knows, because I asked him, I said, look, Greg, you spend a lot of time at the city clerk's office. You know why I'm running. Tell me, am I wrong? And he very softly said, no, yeah, she's not in her office.
You guys are, it's a heated campaign. Both sides are doing everything possible. You guys are out there talking to the people. And in the middle of all this, Southgate decides to have a candidate forum.
Right.
And this is a forum where all the candidates who are running for election get to talk about various issues and how they feel about it. Talk to us about that forum and how that went for you.
Yeah, so I received an invitation to the candidates forum, and quite honestly, I wasn't going to go. I really thought, the timing of it was not good. And what I mean by that is that the timing is just a week before the election. Most people have already made up their mind. When you have a candidates forum, most of the people that show up are there to support a candidate that's going to be speaking. So you're not going to have a lot of people that are showing up that have not made up their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point?
Okay.
However, if it had been videotaped and had been done 2 or 3 weeks earlier than that, I would have seen the point in it. That's one issue I had with it. The other issue is that my experience in these forums and debates is that there's not a lot of control.
Mm-hmm.
And, what happens is you get this paper and it says, look, it's got all these regulations, all these rules we're putting up here, and you have to initial next to them. So one of them said that we are to just answer the questions, make our statements, but be respectful of the other candidates. So basically, don't trash each other.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I have a problem with that is because 4 years ago I ran a campaign, and a gentleman made a comment saying that he ran a business and he has veterans that are part of the business, and well, it wasn't true. But I had to sit there and kind of basically allow him to tell people.
To tell lies.
To tell a lie.
Yeah.
And so I could go up there and say, look, I have a doctorate from Harvard or Yale, and, I have, people would listen to that and nobody can question it. I don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So I think that if we were to have something where we can question each other, I would be more inclined to participate in it, only because of my past experiences with it.
Right.
The other thing is that I know I can control. I was raised Catholic. I say my prayers. I read the Bible, and but I follow a philosophy of Buddhism. I try to be as honest with people as possible. I try, not, if I say something that's incorrect, then, I'll stand corrected and I'll say, I'm sorry, it wasn't a lie. I misspoke, or, but I won't sit there and continue with a lie. Well, when you sign off on this paper saying that you're going to be respectful, when you put your initials on that, you're telling people you're going to stick to that. All of us signed it. All of us initialed. Well, now you go to the candidates forum and we sit down, and right from the get-go, she attacks me. Mm-hmm. And when it was my turn to talk, I didn't fight back. And then next opportunity she had, she attacked me again. And once again, I didn't respond to it. And I started staring at the gentleman that was putting this together, nice young man by the name of Juliano Harguin. Mm-hmm. His intentions were good, and I had warned him that this would happen. Then she did it again. And once again, I'm maintaining my composure. And so part of Buddhist philosophy is, you can only control yourself. You can't control others, so don't try. Mm-hmm. And so I was sticking to that. But then she made one more comment, and I couldn't let it go anymore. And that had to do with, she once again said, Gil is running for this position to pad his retirement, and it's your taxpayer money that he's going after. So it left me no choice but to then start throwing things out that were factually based. Now remember, her comment is not a truthful comment. Mm-hmm. And just so that you know, I'm talking with attorneys right now, and I may file a lawsuit, defamation of character, because her comment is way, way out of line, and I'm going to explain why. My comments were, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out here. first of all, I just want to tell you that I'm committed to my community. I had just spoken about commitment to family, and I'm going to speak about commitment to the community. And I'm going to tie it into the money issue that the city clerk just brought up. My opponent just told you that I'm going after some retirement thing. Well, let me share with you. I have 25 years of volunteer work here in the city of Southgate. What person do you know would volunteer 25 years if their interest is money? You just don't do that. However, our city clerk makes a substantial salary here and then makes another $25,000 over at the Cerritos College. But that's not even enough. She also applied to 2 other cities. And by the way, I didn't mention them, but one of them was the city of Long Beach. They had an opening for a city clerk position, an appointed city clerk position, and she applied for it. And I think it paid $115,000 to $120,000. So, I'm sharing that with you now, but when I said it at the candidates forum, I indicated. So she wants to show commitment to you here in the community. She's prepared to leave you for a higher salary.
Right.
Where's the commitment? And then I thanked the audience and I took the seat. The audience erupted. And then when she came to talk, they booed her. When I left the stage, the people explained to me that the reason they applauded was because when they heard her attack me over and over and over again, they were like, Gil has to say something.
You better fire back.
Exactly. That was the feeling. You can't let her just push you around like that. She's pushing you around. But see, again, I pride myself in control, and I do have control. But I thought it was necessary for the voters who were there. The city, the residents are entitled to the truth. And so I did that. So now let me talk a little bit about why there's a lie involved when she talks about the retirement. I mentioned to you earlier how when in 2014, I had already made a decision. I had already made it known to people that if nobody ran against her, that I would pull papers and run for the city clerk position. But again, that was if nobody ran against her. And after her comments at the Los Angeles County Office of Education, I made it known to more people. I actually just recently had a conversation with the city attorney, and I asked him, Raul, do you recall when you first found out that I was going to run for the city clerk position? His response was, yeah, it was, if I remember correctly, the first time I heard was shortly after that LACO meeting. I said, great, I'm glad you remembered that. Because Carmen keeps on attacking me, saying that I'm doing this to pad my retirement. So now I'm going to let you in on a conversation I had with one of her supporters, our friend Henry Gonzalez. Henry Gonzalez, I've always respected him, but it saddens me to know that he knows the truth and he allowed this lie to go on. I don't know how much of this he knows, and I hope to have a conversation with him one day and find out, because it does bother me, it does sadden me. If he knows that it happened, for him to let it go, I don't get it. But here's the story. Henry Gonzalez retired after the election of March of 2015. He's a big Dodger fan. I'm a big Giants fan. And so during the baseball season, we talk a lot on the phone. And so I called him up one day. I think it was sometime in June or July. And I said, hey, you doing anything tomorrow? You want to go hang out? Let's go to have breakfast. So we went to go have breakfast. And I hope I'm okay saying this. I'm not trying to do a plug for them, but we went to the IHOP. And so we went to the IHOP, and as we're sitting there talking, he says, I bought some years back. Just like that. I said, huh? Yeah, I bought some years back. I said, well, what, are you 10 years younger now or what? I had no idea what the heck he was talking about. But he says, for my retirement, I got a letter, and it gave me the opportunity to pay for some years where, at first I wasn't paying into it. I said, wait a minute, but you've been retired from General Motors and the union for a very long time. What are you talking about? He says, Gil, as a council member. I said, what? As a council member? What do you mean as a council member? He says, shoot, I didn't know that either. I said, you didn't know what? That we get a retirement once we leave office. I said, no fooling? He said, yeah, I didn't know that either. I said, that is so crazy. That is so crazy. So then he says, yeah, check it out with Mike Flatt, the city manager. So the breakfast finished and I took him home. Time passed, maybe a week or two. And I ran into Mike in the lobby in City Hall. And I said, hey, Mike, I got a question for you. I had a conversation with Henry. And he told me something about a retirement. Do we get a retirement when we leave office? Oh, yeah, we pay into it. I said, that is so weird. I never knew that. Henry didn't know that. And he said, oh, yeah, go to talk to Nally at the personnel office, and she'll give you the lowdown. So I called up Nally, and I said, hey, I need to talk to you about this, because I still was, in disbelief. So I called up Nally. I made an appointment, and she gave me the formula, I'm a mathematician. To her, it was very complicated, but I understood it pretty well.
Right.
And so I said, oh, wow, look at it. It's in writing and everything. So sometime after that, I went up to Jorge Morales. I said, hey, look, just out of curiosity, did you know that we get a retirement as council members? And he said, no. I said, no, for real, dude. You got to check it out. He said, no, I said, we do. I didn't believe it either. Henry didn't. He's the one who told me, and he didn't know about it either. I brought it up with Maria Davila, councilwoman. She's been at the council seat longer than any one of us has. She laughed when I brought it up. I said, why are you laughing? She says, because you're joking, right? You're always joking. No, I'm not joking. I'm telling you what I was just told by Nally and by Mike Flatt. And Henry's the one who brought it to my attention. By the way, he didn't know about it either. So now think, if my plan was to pad my retirement,
you found out about it a little too late.
I found out about it a whole way too late. And everybody and here's the bad part, that people allowed that lie to be told instead of stepping up. And that's why this bothers me. And it's all for the purposes of supporting Carmen. I don't have a problem with them supporting Carmen. I don't. It's democracy. Look, before the campaign started, I actually met with each one of them. Jorge, I already knew, was supporting me. I told Maria Davila, look, I know it's going to be tough, but look, you make a decision and you got three choices. One, you support Carmen. If you support Carmen, you and I will still be friends. If you support me, I can't speak on behalf of Carmen. So you might want to check with her. Or you can completely stay out of it. That was her choice, to stay out of it. When I talked to Bill DeWitt, he really wanted me just to stay as a council member. He felt I'd bring more to the community. He offered to talk to Carmen to try to get her to start showing up for work and doing what she's supposed to. But he chose to support Carmen. And even after that, him and I had many breakfasts together. We hung out quite a few times, and I respected it. Greg Martinez supported Carmen, and he acknowledged that what I was trying to do was right, but he was part of a slate with them. And I told him, look, it doesn't matter. You're okay. It's democracy. And I supported Greg, and he couldn't believe it. We even campaigned here at the Thunderbird Villa where I live. And so he couldn't understand how I could be supporting him, knowing that he's running on a slate with Carmen. I talked to Belen, and Belen said, Gil, I got to support Carmen. And okay, I get it. But I maintained a friendship with them. I didn't have a problem with it. But until the attacks started coming up is when it changed things. I was not going to attack them. I was not going to attack Carmen, but I was being attacked. On Facebook. It's just not something that I wanted to get into. But when you attack me, do I really want to start rolling in the mud? I did not want to do that. So I continued to stick to my strategy. I kept it clean.
So as we discussed, the strategy that you use now, and what kind of obstacles were going on and who supported you and who didn't. We kind of fast forward now to, I believe it was 2 or 3 days before the election, and you know, since we're talking about strategy, this kind of felt like it was a strategy as well. But some of the council members, along with Bill DeWitt and also the city clerk, they decide to have a press conference, and they have it outside of City Hall. I attended this press conference, and I found it very strange to see that you weren't present, and a couple other people weren't present. Uh, Talk to us about what you've learned about that press conference, and what really was the purpose.
Well, that's interesting, right? The whole thing started the Saturday. So we have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, right? So 4 days before the election. I was, out there coaching my girls softball team. We were in a tournament, and I come back home. I'm all tired and sweaty and dirty, and I told my wife I'm gonna take a quick shower, and I'm a little hungry. I hadn't had a meal all day, and when all of a sudden my phone rings, and it's my friend Greg Martinez, and he says to me, "Gil, did you see the mailer that went out? There was a hit piece." And I said, "Oh wow, no, look, I just walked in the door." I said, "Hang on a second," and I didn't even check the mailbox. So I went outside and went to the mailbox, and I got it, and it was just one mailer. The mailer that I got was one that was mailed out by Carmen Avalos, and it actually made me laugh a little bit because it talked about how she took on Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea where she's coming with that, but I guess it resonates with people. She's going to go after Donald Trump, right? And if you can, please remind me to talk about that flyer, because but I want to stick to your question.
Okay.
So I come back in, and I'm telling Greg, I'm sorry, the only thing I got was this one from Carmen Avalos that she took on Donald Trump. So tell me what the hit piece says. So he describes it, and he says, look, it's asking for people to vote for Bill DeWitt, Al Rios for city council, Gil Hurtado for city clerk, and for Sonia Lopez for treasurer. I said, okay, but tell me what it says. Well, it just says things about you guys and why people should vote for you. I said, wait a minute, you just told me there was a hit piece. Well, that's it, Gil. That's a hit piece. I said, Greg, wait a minute. What makes this a hit piece? Why are you calling it a hit piece? Well, why are they supporting Sonia? I said, oh my God, Greg, are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. That's not a hit piece, Greg. He said, well, why are they supporting her? I said, I have no idea. I supported you. I'm walking on your behalf. I have no idea who mailed that. And by the way, look, I love Bill, but as the campaign was rolling along, I started finding that, a group of people were walking for Jenny Perez, a group were walking for Denise Diaz, a group was walking for Edgar Palayo. And this is from my campaign office. In other words, they were walking for Gil, Al, and Edgar. Mm-hmm. Gil, Al, and Denise. Gil, Al, and Jenny. Gil, Al, and a few people were walking for Bill. So when I did the math, I thought, I don't think Bill's going to have much traction. It turns out I was wrong. But just from talking to the folks, I really thought that it was going to be between Denise Diaz, Jenny Perez, and Edgar Palayo. Mm-hmm. So I didn't support Bill, and I didn't support Sonia either. As a matter of fact, I think I've mentioned this at least twice already, but I walked this precinct with Greg. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I and my daughter had already voted by mail, and we voted for Greg. And so I told Greg, look, Greg, it's not a hit piece, but, I understand you're not happy about it. But, look, you're going to do fine. I was trying to ease his mind. I thought he was going to be, pretty safe in winning his reelection because most people know him and they don't know the other two candidates. I'm sure they're fine people. I just don't know enough about them to support them. Now, to be, completely honest, when the young lady ran for, I think it was Compton College, she reached out to me through a friend and asked if I would support her. And knowing that there was nobody else running for Compton College from the city of Southgate that lived here, I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and support her for that one. But for city treasurer, it was a different story. I didn't know enough about her to support her. And again, I'm sure she's a nice person, but I knew Greg enough to feel comfortable supporting him. So that being said, I thought the conversation was done. I thought he was happy. I thought, I eased his mind and he felt comfortable that he would do okay. The next morning, Sunday morning, I got a call from Waldo Perez, the father of Jenny. And he says, Gil, did you know that there's going to be some sort of meeting this afternoon? I said, no, I don't know anything about a meeting. He says, yeah, supposedly, Bill and Greg are calling a meeting together. I said, okay, well, no, I haven't heard anything about it. Who invited you? Or were you invited? Or what? I don't get it. He says, well, no, they asked me if I wanted to join them. So I said, okay, well, look, they haven't called me yet. I have my phone with me. I'm getting ready to go to my campaign office. I'm supposed to be there at 10. So I'm just organizing some last minute things. We got, plans for the day. But if there's something that goes on and they want to call me about it, they most certainly can. So now it's about 1:45, and I remember almost exactly where I'm at. I was over by Garfield and Main, which is right next to my campaign office. And I was walking the precinct, talking to some folks out there, when my phone rings. And I made a mad dash to my car because I felt a little bit of sprinkles coming, and I was already sick.
Yeah.
You hear me how I am now. So I quickly went into my car. If I'm going to be stopping, talking to somebody on the phone, I'm going to be in my car. So I wasn't too far away, so I jumped in there, and I saw it was Maria Davila. And she said, Gil, do you know anything about some press conference that's going on? No. Well, what are you talking about? I heard there's a press conference. I said, where'd you hear that from? I saw something on Facebook. I said, okay, no, I haven't seen anything. But look, when is it? And he said, well, I saw it's supposed to be at 2. I said, well, who called it? She says, I don't really know. I said, okay, well, look, if you find anything out, you let me know. But I'm campaigning here. Sometime around 3:30 or so, two of my friends, Hilda and Minnie, came up to me, and they were upset like I've never seen them. And they said there was this press conference that was called, and it was a joke, and I guess someone had live streamed it, and they found it, and they showed it to me, and I said, there's something wrong here. There's something definitely wrong. And as I was, I said, look, I'm going to have to take a good look at that later on. Right now, I'm focusing on my campaign, but there's something definitely wrong. And what I saw, just in the few moments what I had seen from the live stream, was that you had Bill DeWitt, the mayor of the city of Southgate, Maria Davila, the vice mayor of the city of Southgate, and Councilwoman Belen Bernal. That, they can't do that. They cannot hold a meeting. It's a possible violation of the Brown Act. Meetings for the public have to have a 72-hour notification. None of that was done. Then, the little snippet that I had seen, I noticed that the people that were invited to it were people that were supporting their slate. And I said, this is campaigning. This is not a press conference. This is campaigning. There's something wrong, and they're on city property, right in front of City Hall. And then they got other candidates in there. I said, you know what? No. I stopped watching it, continued with my campaign. Later on in the evening, when I got a chance to sit down and relax a little bit more. The more I looked at it, I called right away. I called the city attorney, I called the city manager, and I called for an investigation. And that right now is being looked into because, you know, if you listen to some of the things that were said, and I'm going to highlight a few of them. The average voter doesn't know certain rules and regulations.
Right.
But we as elected officials do. So let me talk a little bit about some of the comments that were made. Greg Martinez said that he felt that the mailer that went out was a way of silencing them, that they were silenced by it. And I remember somebody saying, how does that silence you? You have a voice. You're able to say something. Well, how does it silence you? Well, look at the hypocrisy behind that. They silenced me. I wasn't invited. They silenced the community. Not the whole community was invited. They handpicked who was going to be there.
They did.
So to say that this mailer silenced us, but yet you're silencing me, you're silencing other people, is ridiculous. It's hypocrisy by definition. Then you talk about the comment made by Mayor Bill DeWitt. He said this mailer that was sent out to deceive people because it's got me on it. I never gave permission to be on that mailer. I'm not supporting any of those candidates. Then he talks about the committee that was there that mailed it out and pointed to corruption. Well, let me give a little bit of education, political science to people. By law, you have a political campaign yourself. Okay, you have your own funds. You're going to do your own thing. You have to record on a form. It's called a Form 460 as to where you got your money from, how much they gave you, and then you have to report where you spend it, whether it's on stamps, whether it's on, staff, whether it's on, pens and papers, lawn signs, wherever you spend your money, you have to annotate all of that. That's your own campaign fund. Then you have what's known as an Independent Expenditure Committee, better known as IE. So when I say IE, just remember it's an independent expenditure. An independent expenditure works something like this. Let's say, for example, Alan, that you're running for city council.
Okay.
And you have your own committee. And then me and a group of my friends say, hey, look, this guy Alan is a cool dude. He's a good guy. He's the brightest guy I know. Let me support him. Let's put a committee to support him. And we want to call it whatever we want to call it. Southgate Residents for a Clean Government. You give it whatever name you want. So we do our fundraising and we have to fill out the Form 460. And then we annotate where we're spending the money. We have to find pictures of you to put on the flyer. I can't call you and say, Alan, I need your picture because I'm going to put a mailer out. If I do, I have now violated the law. And it's very serious. So when Bill DeWitt stands up there and says, I did not give any permission to use my mailer, people watching that probably gasp and say, oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
They should have asked for his permission.
They should have asked for his permission. It's a symbol of corruption. That Bill DeWitt, I know Bill DeWitt knows the law. I know that all the people that were there, Carmen Avalos, she's a city clerk. For them to allow that statement to go out in the way they did, there was another reason for it. The intention was to paint certain people out as corrupt. You heard Belen Bernal make a comment. Her comment was, if you stand against corruption like we do, come join us up here. Come up here. Well, I didn't go up there. So people did the math. Well, Gil's not up there. He must be corrupt. Now they can sit there and say, we never said Gil's name, because that's their defense right now. They never said Gil's name. Well, let me see now. Bill DeWitt then later on said, we shouldn't let these outsiders control our city. And he named two of them, Eric Garcetti and Antonio Villaraigosa, who I happen to be friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found out I was running, they came to my campaign kickoff. I posted it on Facebook. Heck, I even sent a mailer out with Eric Garcetti and with a quote from his office. But yet, they didn't do a fundraiser for me.
Mm-hmm.
They went to my campaign kickoff. And so the fact that they were mentioned, the Garcetti and Villaraigosa, people know that they came to my, my campaign kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to say my name. People know, they all know who they were talking about. Well, let me ask you, Alan. You said you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Without them mentioning my name, who did you think they were talking about?
Absolutely. The people that weren't there, it was obvious to me. As soon as I walked up to the city hall, I was like, oh, Bill's not there. I mean, Gil's not there, and so, they tried to make it very cryptic, as cryptic as they could, but it was, it was kind of obvious.
Exactly. And I think the average person would tell you, oh, wow, they're talking about Gil. That same evening, that video that was taken by Jose de la Paz
Mm-hmm.
was posted, and then people copied it onto, I think it was a scanner page,
Mm-hmm.
and then comment after comment after comment started coming in. Somebody gave me a call, and I want to say it was either Minnie or, well, it was someone that was one of my supporters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they called me up and they said, Gil, you got to get on Facebook. You got to check out what's going on. I said, okay, guide me. Where? It's on the scanner page. And when I saw, before I could comment, I wanted to read as many of the comments. And I remember taking my speed reading course where you do that chunking thing, right? So
Yeah.
I went through it real quick, and I saw a lot of support for me. But I did see those comments from Belen Bernal saying, oh, no, Gil was invited. He was invited to it. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's a false statement. So I jumped in and I said, okay, well, look, let me clear the air up. I posted something to the effect of, let me clear that one up. I, Gil Hurtado, was not invited. And then she jumped in again and said, well, I was told you were. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you were told. I'm telling you, I was not invited.
Mm-hmm.
Then she jumps back in again and says, well, Greg told me he called you yesterday. Yeah, he did. Let me clear that up. Yes, he called me up to complain about a mailer that went out. And I said, look, he called me, talked about the mailer. That was the end of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Never told me anything about a press conference. So then now she starts inviting Greg into the conversation. So when she gets Greg into the conversation, she says, Greg, jump in here. Can you clear this up? And Greg jumps in and he says, I called Gil a little after 3, and then I called Bill after 8. I said, Greg, once again, I agree with you. You called me, but we spoke about the mailer only, not about a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
So then he posts, a lot of people were saying, well, Greg, just answer the question. Did you call Gil? Did you, who was making the list of invitees? Who called this meeting? No response. What he then goes on to do is he starts posting the names of companies and the amounts of dollars that they gave in donations to that political action committee or to that independent expenditure. Deflecting, pivoting, as they say nowadays, right? And so someone said, I think it was Joshua Barone who said, that's, there you go. That's not the question, Greg. We're not talking about the money. We're talking about, did you invite Gil or not?
Mm-hmm.
And as the conversation went on, it wouldn't change. And at some point I started saying, look, you're not going to get these. In my mind, I'm thinking, you're not going to get them to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, let's just be clear about this. I'm Gil Hurtado. I did not get a call. But listen to what they just said, and I think this will answer everybody's questions. And you're going to see how much of a lie the whole thing is. They told everybody that this meeting was called, the decision to call this press conference came on Sunday morning. So then how is it possible that Greg is now telling everybody, and Belen is telling everybody, that Greg called me on Saturday night to invite me to it?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot invite me on Saturday night to a press conference that you haven't called yet. But this is what they try to sell to the people.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it. And I think a lot of folks like you, Alan, who, paid close attention, didn't buy it either. But a lot of people did buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it took. That's exactly what they wanted. They accomplished what they wanted. And so there's 3 investigations going on right now. One of them is on the legality of this press conference. Can they do this?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know where this is going to end up. I can tell you from my 12 years of experience and understanding the ethics, we take ethics classes, that this was not the right way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, in that one moment where the press conference was at, the deception, telling people, we're here to fight corruption. We want transparency. We don't want these things to silence us. But yet I was silenced because I wasn't invited.
Right.
Did they invite you, or how did you find out?
No, I was sent a text message saying that there was going to be a secret meeting outside of City Hall, and I decided to go. And yeah, it was sketchy from the get-go.
Well, when you got there, now I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
When you got, because we haven't talked about this. When you got there, what did you find? What was the reception? Were they glad to see you?
So they weren't glad to see me at all. Definitely, they were taken back, and you can kind of see that they saw that they made a mistake, because when they were done speaking, some of the people that showed up, they were firing back.
You mean the non-invitees?
Yeah, the non-invited people. They were firing back, and I don't think that they ever thought that was going to happen, that people were going to go and call them out and ask them questions about this and that. Carmen was asked about, the money that she makes in different charter schools and whatnot, and she defended herself. But it was interesting to me to find out that they themselves said this isn't illegal, we just don't like it.
Exactly.
And then to me, it's just like, well, then you're just, basically out here saying you don't like that this was done.
You don't seem like the party crasher kind of guy. I think you'd be one that people would like to invite, but this is not one where they wanted, folks to look. When I saw some of the folks that were there were folks that I recognized that were supporting Carmen and the entire slate.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it looked all rehearsed. It looked like we are going to have these people here so that we can get them to say what we want them to say.
Yeah.
But in that process, they told lies. Look, Carmen Avalos started talking about a mailer that she got where it was a hit piece. And that hit piece addressed a couple of things. So, I'm going to jump on that one right now because it's her comments. She says, I don't make $90,000 a year. This is a lie. This is a big lie. And okay. So Joshua asked them, well, how much do you make? She says $82,500. And I believe she's correct. That's the cash part. Yeah. That's the salary. But the benefits are much higher. Mm-hmm. It brings it into a much higher level, even higher than the 90,000.
Yeah, I thought it was comical just that she, addressed the fact that they were off by 8,000. They were off by 7,500.
7,500.
I'm like, oh well, okay.
Right, and so but the reality of it is this. She even talked about how, other city clerks make more money than she does. And, look at even, this is the subcommittee that has already seen those numbers. She's right. Mm-hmm. The average salary for city clerks is about $115,000 to $120,000. But those are appointed city clerks, not elected city clerks. Mm-hmm. Elected city clerks make less than that. Now, that was one of the things I wanted to change also. As a matter of fact, I'm going to jump back to the candidates forum. Mm-hmm. The mediator, the lady that was there, inadvertently made that point for me, because when she did the welcome, she said, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to this candidates forum. Over on my left, we have 9 candidates that are running for city council. Over on the right, we have 5 candidates. 3 are going for the city treasurer position and 2 for the city clerk position. And by the way, it's kind of strange for me to do a city clerk candidate forum. And the reason is because usually those are appointed. Over 70% of the people, of the clerks in the state of California, are appointed. And I'm sitting there kind of looking like, thank you for making that point for me, ma'am. But okay, back to this press conference, the great press conference that is now the joke of the town.
Yeah.
So she talked about the 82,500, but look, she makes 82,500 here. She applied for 2 other jobs, one in Long Beach. I can't recall the other one. I want to say it was Carson, but I could be wrong. But they offer her more money. And she's ready to dump us, leave us, so that she can go to a city where they pay her more money. Mm-hmm. That would be great. I would be happy for her because she'd be making more money. The difference is there she would have to answer to the city manager. Here in the city of Southgate, she answers to no one. Now, she alluded to the subcommittee made up of Vice Mayor Maria Davila and Councilwoman Maria Belen Bernal. And, Belen Bernal actually just posted this recently on Facebook saying, please vote. This was on election day or the day before. Vote for Carmen Avalos. And, one of the things that they're attacking her on is on that she's not in her office. Well, that's got a quick solution to it. We can solve that. All we have to do is have the city council to make a decision that she has to have certain office hours. Give me a break. She already has office hours. They're Monday through Thursday between the hours of 7 and 5. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the city council, and I'm speaking as a current city council now, all the way till April 11th, I'll still be a council member. I can tell you right now that if I were to make, and it would be a 5-0 vote, that she would have to be there Monday to Thursday between the hours of 7 to 5, there's no teeth to that. Mm-hmm. Before I made my decision to run for city clerk, I asked the city attorney and the city manager, if this subcommittee comes up and says that there's going to be some regulations, some rules that she has to adhere to, can we hold her to that? I said no. No, she doesn't answer to us. She answers to the voters. So even now they're trying to convince people that the subcommittee is going to come out here and make these regulations. So don't worry, she's going to start doing her job. Mm-hmm. Don't buy it. They're trying to sell it. Don't buy it. It's too expensive. It's $82,500, too expensive. Yeah. Now, at the Cerritos College, she's making about $25,000 a year there as well. And from what I understand, she's been having some attendance issues there as well. I've actually got on the internet and Googled Cerritos College Board. Then you Google on the meetings. They videotape them. Oh. So you can go there and take a look at them. Okay. Well, back in June of 2015, I suffered a heart attack. And so I was in bed for a good chunk of time. And at that time, I thought, let me see, I just almost died here, but do I really want to continue with this? Yes, the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. So as I was laying in bed, my wife walked into the room and I said, hey, come on in here, Flaca. Bring me my iPad. You want to sit down and watch something with me? She said, sure. So she brought me some snacks to munch on and something to drink. And she laid down next to me, and I said, okay, look, here's what I want to do. I want to take a look at the meetings that are recorded at Cerritos College. And I can't remember what period we looked at. I think it was sometime between June of 2015 through December. And I said to my wife, okay, you go first, pick one. So she picked the date, and I clicked on it. And then, we viewed it and had our answer to that one, and then I said, I'll pick the next one. In total, we got 6. Mm-hmm. And out of those 6, she was late to 1, and I'm talking about an hour and a half late. She left early from 2, and I'm talking about halfway through the meeting. and she was completely absent to 3. And so I said, this is crazy. That was enough for me. Now, how lucky do I have to be to pick 6 that would show an attendance issue?
Yeah.
I don't know about employers out there, but I supervised for the U.S. Postal Service for over 30 years. And if any of my employees had an attendance issue like that, they would have been fired. But here, I can't fire her. She doesn't answer to me. She doesn't answer to the city manager. She answers to the voters. And right here, it appears that she knows that.
Yeah.
And once again, they have spoken, and they reelected her again.
Man, you know, it's crazy what the influence of you know, just one press conference had on this election, and just the way that it kind of went out. It got out to the internet, and people were able to see for themselves what was going on, and still chose to reelect her. And that's crazy. And you know, even you and I, this is actually the first time that you and I actually meet in person. And we were thrown in on a flyer together that said that we were colluding somehow, which was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, that you and I were running on a slate in 2019. And I was like, you know, I've never even met Gil Hurtado, but it's the levels that people will go to when they see opposition.
Yeah, you know what? I never saw that, but I heard about that. And it was so funny. And, you know, you mentioned the internet. Let me talk a little bit about the internet. So on Facebook, I guess that's the place where most of us are at. You know, there's various pages out there. You won't find me making any derogatory comments about my opponent. Now, I'll tell you, I did make some comments, and, you know, so yeah, people can take this for whatever they want. But here's one. For example, Jose de la Paz, I had about a 2-hour meeting with him, and I was impressed with him. I thought he was a very nice guy. In the conversation, I'm going to take his word for it, but he seemed like a very family-oriented person. And intellectually, I was also impressed with him as well. He, you know, and again, and I'm taking at his word all the work that he's ever done. But one of the things that I found from the conversation that I had with him is that I would ask him, you know, well, what have you done here in the city of Southgate? And really, his answer always took back to how, you know, he's been a CEO. And I thought, okay, well, look, if that's his message, you know, it doesn't matter if he's not done anything here in the city of Southgate. That's okay. But you know, I would hope that, you know, we would elect people who say they care about the community, but actually have proof. Because look, I can bring you 20 candidates right now that want to run in 2019, and all of them would say they care about the community. Which one of them is not going to say they care? They're all going to say that. Well, what I look for in a candidate is someone who says, look, I care about the community. Well, really, how can you prove it? Well, look, I served on this board here. I did this fundraising here. I, you know, do Relay for Life. Whatever things they've done, you know, to help out the community, you know, I'll accept that. I'll take that. But to not have any of that, then don't mention that. Say you care about the community, you've done great things in your businesses, and you want to come in, I would accept that. But some of the flyers that I saw that he objected to me making comments on is that, for example, somebody, congresswoman, newly elected congresswoman, and water board member said that something to the effect that he has deep roots here in the city of Southgate and has done a lot of great things. So I took it upon myself to call some of the community leaders that I know and some of the pastors that I know, and I know a lot of them. No one's ever heard of this guy. How does a person who's got deep roots in the city not known, you know? You know, and again, I'm just questioning that part of it. But again, to be clear, I was impressed with him as an individual. I think he's a good guy. He's a nice man. He's probably a good family man. And from what I can see, that I think he's proven that to me. I don't need any proof on that. But for him to have deep roots in the community, I question that part of it. But one of the things that he did, and it goes in line with your question about the internet, is he put this segment where he took pictures of all these potholes, and he said, you've been ignored, and he played that video that he took of all these potholes throughout the city of Southgate, and he put the song of the Benny Hill program on. I don't know if you remember it. But so that I took as he's mocking us. He's mocking me as an individual. And he says, look, you've been ignored by your elected officials. I won't ignore you. Well, look, let's look at reality. First of all, years ago, I asked staff to do an analysis to see what our streets would be graded. And the way streets are graded are just like you are in school, an A, B, C, D, or F. At the time of the analysis, about 10 years ago, our streets were graded a D. A D, that's not good.
No.
However, nationwide, that's the average. All
Okay.
the streets nationwide are Ds. And so staff had come up with a number, and again, this was about 8, 9, 10 years ago, that it would take about $75 million to fix our streets just to bring them to a C. Well, we don't have that kind of cash. And so we thought, okay, well, we're just going to continue to patch things up to the best of our ability. So now I want you to imagine this guy's statement. He's saying he's going to lower taxes and he's going to fix every pothole in the city. Well, the city of Southgate has 136 miles worth of streets and 11 miles worth of alleyways. 147 miles. So from here to the Mexican border is about 120 miles. So imagine a street from here to the Mexican border and beyond, and having to fix every pothole between here and there and do it with less money. Now, that's a beautiful trick. If he can do that, I'd vote for him. But I know he can't. But if you know the business of potholes, you can fix a pothole right now, and tomorrow you'll have another one. Rains come in, these big trucks come in. Potholes are a never-ending story. So I just found that his comments were just not right. It seemed like a good story to tell people.
He didn't give the people the full scope of the issue.
Right. He doesn't have a solution.
Yeah.
Then he posted another thing. He said, I've reviewed the budget, and I found that the city of Southgate spent $15 million to widen the street on Firestone and Atlantic. They should have used that money for these potholes. Well, that's a good story for people who are angry at the potholes, right? But here's the reality of it. Those $15 million, I had a hand in bringing them in. I was the chairman of the I-710 project committee. I was on the executive board and served as president of the Gateway Cities Council of Governments. 27 cities get together. And there's funding that we push for. And I pushed for funding to bring in those $15 million to our city. Now, it was through grants. That means that those monies are restricted. You can't use it for anything else. So I don't know what he looked at, but those $15 million that he's talking about, you can only use them for what we got them for. It's like if you go to a bank and say, I want to get a loan, I want to get me this car, an Audi, and they say, sure, here's a check. And then you go to Hawaii, you go to a European, trip, and you spend all the money. You can't do that. Whatever you borrow the money for, you have to use it for what it's for. And in the world of politics, it's even more, it's criminal. You cannot, funnel money into other areas. You got to use it for what its intended purpose is. So at that point, I said, this guy is really not that well versed. He's a good guy. He must be a good businessman. He's impressed me with all of that. But here he doesn't have a lot of knowledge. So it bothered me to see the support that he was getting. And, who pulled these, So when I go back to that press conference, they're talking about, having elected officials that have done things for the community and all. I don't know who was supporting them. Well, if you recall the press conference, he's the one that was videotaping this. Yeah. He edited it. He did whatever he wanted to do with it. And he posted it on his page. Well, when I finally tried to get on, he had already had blocked out where people can't comment anymore. So I couldn't comment. So when you think about the internet and how people were using it, here was an individual that was using the internet, and he had told me he was going to do great in the campaign because he's got a lot of ways of using the internet and social media and the whole bit. And I think he's a good guy. Don't get me wrong. It's just question some of the things that he was talking about, because I think people look. I remember a candidate years ago saying, we need to hire more police officers. When I get elected, I'm going to bring in 20 more police officers. 20 more police officers. Well, let me see. Each officer costs us about $100,000 a year. Multiply that times 20, you got $2 million. Well, okay, great. I'll bring in 20 officers too. But how am I going to pay for it? Am I going to tax you more, or am I going to cut services? It's easy to make a comment and throw it out there, but you have to be able to substantiate it. And I've been able to do that. For my 12 years, I've never deceived anybody. I've done whatever I could to be as transparent and as honest to people. And, but this doesn't seem transparent to me. Well, so when I look at how he used it well. And a lot of people actually got angry at him. I think it sort of kind of backfired on him. Well, I kept on getting attacked. There was a guy by the name of Matthew Acosta, and I saw his page. A guy from Downey, nice-looking young man, well-dressed with a tie and the whole bit. He kept on attacking me and attacking Jorge Morales, and I guess the reason they were attacking Jorge is because they felt that, okay, Jorge's supporting Gil. If we can attack Jorge, it's going to make Gil look bad, and that way he loses more votes that way. Then I started, and I kind of smelled a rat there. I didn't know what was going on, but it smelled. It reeked of evil. And I would be attacked every so often, and I knew who it was coming from, but I just couldn't prove it. So one day, there was a private message, and the backdrop had Gil Hurtado for city clerk, and then it had IHOP and Southgate Rams. And I said, well, I don't know why he put the IHOP, but I think this guy knows I coach at the high school. And the guy's name was Alan Joe Garcia. And I said, wow, he took part of your name and he threw something in there.
Yeah.
And he spelled Alan differently, right? And I looked at it and I said, oh my God. And it was a threat. They were trying to threaten me. And so what I did is I got on, to see, if I can find an Alan Joe Garcia. And I found him. It was only one. I found him. And then where it says contact information, A. Barras, 73. I said, oh my God. He didn't do a good job of hiding this one.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at it, I took a picture of it, and then I posted it on my Facebook page, and I said, hey, if anybody gets a request for friendship from an Alan Joe Garcia, just know that I believe it's Adolfo Barras. And so I put the thing on it, and you could see the thing at the bottom, and the connection was made. So I was inspired by that, though, because one thing you don't do to a guy who's retired, that means I got all day, 24 hours a day. I spent a couple of days trying to find this Matthew Acosta, because I wanted to ask him, why are you attacking me that much? Who are you supporting? And it took me like 3 days, but I found the Matthew Acosta, and he wasn't from Downey. He was from Dallas, Texas. And so I noticed that this guy worked at a law firm called Jackson Walker. And so I sent a message to the people from Jackson Walker saying, my name is Gil Hurtado. I'm a council member in the city of Southgate. I'm a candidate running for office. And one of your employees there, an attorney by the name of Matthew Acosta, is sending out some messages, and he's really irritating a lot of my friends. But I don't think it's him. Can you please inform him to have, give me a call? And I put my phone number on there. But then I found that on the page for him, I clicked on it, and it gave me a phone number. So I called it, and I left him a message. And within a half hour, my phone rings, and it's from Texas. And the guy on the other end says, "Can I speak with Gil Hurtado, please?" Yeah, speaking. Yeah, this is Matthew Acosta. Listen, I want to apologize to you and to the, residents of your city. I got your message, and then I could not believe what I was hearing, and I got on Facebook and I got on the page for Matthew Acosta. They used my name, they used my picture, but that is not me. I am appalled. I'm embarrassed. I want to apologize to everybody out there. I don't know how I can do that. I said, no, you just did. I appreciate you calling me up and telling me what you've told me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, look, I'm going to contact my friends. I have friends in the FBI. He says, look, I have friends too. I'm an attorney. I have friends that work for Facebook, and we're going to do an investigation on this. I need to call him up. But then, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I'm going to go ahead and try to call him up and find out if he's done anything. But there you go. Someone created a phony Facebook page with a nice young man from Dallas, used his image in a very cowardly way
Mm-hmm.
to attack me.
Mm-hmm.
Attack me if you want. Say what you want to say, but don't use these fake images. Well, there was also one evening at a council meeting, I saw Adolfo taking pictures of me.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him. He couldn't hide it. It was like, should I smile at him or what, So he obviously picked out the one with my eyes closed. And, I keep my phone. If you ever go to a council meeting and you see me sitting at the dais, I have my phone next to me. The reason I have my phone next to me is because, my wife doesn't drive, and she stays, home alone. And when my daughter does stay with us here, she stays with us 3-4 days out of the week, lives with us, but sometimes because her back bothers her, she'll stay at a friend's house. Mm-hmm. Because, the drive from her job in Whittier to here, she suffers from scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine.
Mm-hmm.
And so when her back is bothering, she'll just stay out there with a friend of hers. But, she comes home. And, but in any case, I was thinking, if my phone rings, I want to be able to answer it, whether it's my wife, my daughter, or my son. And so, but I have it on, not on vibrate, but just when it turns on, mm-hmm. I'm able to see that someone's calling me or texting me.
Right.
So I saw a text message, and it was a friend of mine. And then again and again and again and again. And I'm thinking, what's going on? Why are all these people reaching out to me? They know I'm at a council meeting. And so as soon as the meeting ended, I started looking at, Gil, you got to check out Facebook. You got to check this out. You got to check this out. And so I did. It turned out that the picture that was just taken of me was on a page, and I think they called it Gil Hurtado the Bully or something like that. And I know who it was, because who took my picture? Yeah. I know he might not have done the whole page, mm-hmm. but he took the picture. And they said that, I'm an evil person. I'm a bully because I attack single moms and gay people. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So now, let me tell you, I have a nephew who's gay. Mm-hmm. I have good friends of mine, Ricardo Lara, who's a senator, good pal of mine. I don't, judge people. Mm-hmm. I don't like to be judged, and I certainly wouldn't do it to anybody. Single moms, my youth program, let me tell you, there's so many wonderful single moms that go through our program. They struggle to make ends meet, and yet they bring their kids to the program. And I do what I can to try to make life as easy for them as possible, but making the program affordable. So attacking me for some stuff like that didn't work. A lot of my friends started attacking them, mm-hmm. and I guess they reported the page. And before I can get home to look at it, it was already removed. And it wasn't the only one. There were other attempts to do that. So social media, if you're a coward, you resort to that kind of stuff. Yeah. To me, that's a very cowardly way of doing that. I just can't understand why people would take advantage of, if you have something to say, if you're that bold about it, and you feel that, what you're saying is true, then put your image on it.
Mm-hmm.
Put your name to it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of the things that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I did see that someone, I think, posted something saying that you're that I'm using you.
Yeah.
You're my spokesperson or whatever.
Yeah. Or that I did your PR or whatever, or that just, there was a couple hits, and to me they were interesting because I'm like, man, I've never met this guy before,
Right.
and it started getting to the point where, they were even saying that me and Valeria were working together to deceive people. And I was like, man, like, it's unusual because it's, it started like almost instantly when I started my podcast.
Right.
I was getting threatening messages. I was getting, hate comments and stuff like that I moderate on my page. But, I'm of the same mind that if you truly have conviction for what you're saying, you would attach your name to it, because you want someone to know that you're fighting for what you truly believe in. But when you use an alias or you use a screen name and you don't use your own image, obviously what you're doing isn't right.
It's cowardly.
Yep.
It's cowardly, or your message is incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it is. Look, and again, I take responsibility for my mailers. I never got any of the mailers from that group, whoever it was. But a friend of mine, Virginia Johnson, she sent me, she says, Gil, I understand you didn't get one of the mailers that was in question. So she sent it to me. And when I looked at it, I emailed her back and I said, wait a minute. You just sent me one. You told me it had the image of Bill DeWitt, Al Rios, myself, and Sonia. Where's Sonia at? Is it on the back side? And she said, oh, no, I sent you the wrong one. I said, so there was two of them. And she said, yeah, there were two of them. I said, okay, well, all right. And so when I saw the second one, I said, okay, well, I didn't see anything wrong with them. Nothing to say, that it's corrupt. Nothing. And, but if that one's corrupt, isn't the one from the CCSA corrupt?
Right.
I think that's crazy to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Gil, it was an amazing conversation. We had a long talk. It's always informative talking to you. Thank you for coming on my podcast, Local Look, and hopefully, further down the road we can have you back and we can talk about maybe some of the good things that go on in the city of Southgate.
And there's a lot of them, and I'd be happy to. And I keep up the good work. I think exposing some of this stuff is necessary. And look, I think it keeps us all on our toes, right? I spoke to Al. And even though I did not win my election, he's going to name me a planning commissioner. And so I appreciate the fact that he's going to do that. And I think he's grateful that I reached out to him and I asked him if he would run so that I can feel comfortable running for a city clerk position. I needed to find someone that would be interested and that I felt comfortable with. And he was the one I selected. And by the way, there were a lot of good people in there. Again, Jenny Perez. I didn't support Denise Diaz, but I thought she would be good. I didn't support Edgar Pelayo, but I thought he was a good one too. So again, there were a lot of good people that were running. I like Mary Johnson. She's been very active in the community. And again, I hope that the kind of shenanigans that came out in this one don't shy people away. Politics is a good thing. So, but thank you again for having me on.
No problem. Thank you so much, Gil.
So that was it, guys. Thank you, guys. If anyone listened to all of that, because that was really long. It was about an hour and a half. But yeah, man, I actually really like speaking to Gil Hurtado. I've spoke to him on the phone before, and this is the first time that I had an interview with him in person. And he's a really awesome guy to talk to. Like, I still talk to him like an hour before this and a little bit after we wrapped up. And man, I can talk to the guy for hours. I can talk to the guy for hours. He's super knowledgeable. He's been around in the community for a long time. You know, he seems to be a really honest guy, really stand-up guy, and yeah, dude, if anybody listen to that, thank you guys so much once again. This is Local Look, Alan Garcia. You could find me on Facebook. The page is now Local Look dash SELA, which is Southeast LA. And you can also find me on just Facebook, Alan Garcia, or Instagram, Garcia_de la Rocha. And yeah, man, just thank you guys so much once again, and have a good one. Thank you.